might have a feeling like you can't go there, bro. So you might not exactly know what to do, but you have some idea. For me, I always had some idea. It was media. It's just I was afraid because, you know, everyone said it's a failure. I saw another quote recently. It said, whenever someone tells you you can't do something, it's actually expressing their own limitation, not yours. So you already have someone. Like, the best advice I'd have for someone is.
Welcome to another episode.
Sorry, my bad.
Welcome to another episode of the Mendable Hustler podcast. I'm your host G, and my co-host Apollo, and we have a very, very, very special guest with us today. A father, entrepreneur, man, so much more that I could say, but can you please introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are?
So my name is Emmanuel. Most commonly go by the name of Focus. That's Fokhus. And I'm going to sum it down to three things. I'm a servant, I'm an encourager, and I'm a media guy.
Yeah, so before we go forward, I'll let my co-host Arturo take over.
Right, Emmanuel, we're happy to have you on board. Kelson speaks highly of you. He thinks of you as a highly inspirational and a highly influential person that motivates him to be the man he is today. And so we would just like to know, where did this all start for you in terms of like motivating people, giving people guidance and stuff? Could you sort of describe your initial
So I love quotes and I love memes. Those I love those things. So one quote that stands out in answering that question, and I'll go deeper, is there are two important days of your life: the day you were born, and the second day being you knowing why, or you finding out why. In terms of me, I'm an encourager. It comes down to that. So I have multiple gifts, multiple lanes between business, a husband, a father, entrepreneur, counselor, advocate. There's a lot of things, but it comes down to, regardless the sphere or spectrum, I encourage. And how that came about, life, going through life. The story's pretty deep, but I never thought I'd live past 18. Spiritually, I'd have a dream every night I'm dying. And it'd be sometimes crazy stuff, sometimes foolish stuff. It could be like a dream like this, and then I went like that, slipped, and I died. So long story short, I remember walking to a church, and the pastor said, someone came here for spirit of death, and I'm here to let you know that you will live and not die. Why is that story significant? I think through that experience and just relating with people, the common denominator amongst all people is stories and your experiences. I guess that has always left a feeling in me that I felt alone. And from that element in itself, I've always hated people feeling alone. So it's whatever I can do to help you know that you're not alone, then let me do that. And again, the easiest classification of that is an encourager. Is because the opposite of encouragement is someone who's discouraged, or someone who's in disparity, someone who's broken, someone who's shattered, someone who's in division. So not having a vision for himself. So again, coming back to that realm and the element of encouragement, that you will be better. Your moment in time now, whether it's good or as whatever you classify it, it's a moment in time, but you have a better trajectory in mind if you were to put that focus. Yeah.
Okay. There is a common trend within people who are feeling alone, who are feeling like they don't belong in any part of a group, that whenever they hear similar messages that sort of apply to them, they sort of tend to stick to that group. And you feel like since you started doing all of this, that you sort of accumulated a certain amount of people within your group that shared your exact messages, your exact, how should I say, just ways of improving yourself. Would you say that?
Absolutely. In terms of sharing with people, you know, quote again: birds of a feather flock together. If I'm, you know, high energy, high rooted, and all that, there's only so long you can stick around me if you don't vibe like that, because I'll irritate you. That's who I am. You know what I mean? So you definitely, and not to say that, you know what, if you're in disparity you can't hang around me. No, but like you either catch the rhythm or you won't. And again, I love quotes. I'm not per se like everyone has to run with me. No. But bottom line, one of my mottos that I live by is everybody eats. But if you have to eat at a separate table, that's fine. But everybody eats, right? So, yeah.
That's great, man. And I know all about that. And one thing that I could say is just like, I want people who don't know you, because you have a very powerful story. You know what I mean? And I wanted to like kind of like go back a little bit and just tell us a little bit of your background, like how you from to Canada, you know what I mean? Like how?
So I was born in Ghana, West Coast, in a city called Kumasi. When I was about the age of 3-4 months, I came to Canada. So,
oh, wow.
so yeah, 3-4 months I came to Montreal. Montreal with my family. Grew up in Montreal till about the age 10. From Montreal, moved to Ottawa. From Ottawa, I was in the lower, I don't know what you call it, but like urban developments in Ritchie. So I was in Ritchie for about...
Oh, so you always lived in Ritchie?
Yeah, I lived in Ritchie's for about 6-7 years. From Ritchie, we moved to Barhaven. So in terms of background, there's levels where we were in the church and not in the church. Growing up in impoverished areas like Ritchie. So many stories. Too many stories. Even I remember when I was leaving Ritchie, I'm like, nah, we don't want to leave Ritchie. But looking back now, probably like, no, again, the span between when I was Ritchie and now was about 21 years now. I saw a shot of my classroom. It's like my grade 3 classroom when I was in there. Some are dead, some are dead, some in prison. Some single parents, some children out of wedlock. Some successful to some degree. Again, success is relative. But I thank God for the life I have. I can definitely say that. Barhaven was cool. Faced a lot of racism there. Being like one of the only blacks there. I remember different scenarios. There have been so many scenarios. One time I went to go drink water at a fountain. I was grade 6. I entered grade 6 when I was the school I went to in Barhaven. And there was a girl at the fountain, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" She goes, "Like, your skin's burned. Who burned your skin?"
Oh.
And she's like kindergarten.
At the time, have you ever experienced racism before that?
You always experience racism in like different levels. I don't think I experienced racism from such an innocence. In terms from an innocent, because she wasn't trying to be racist. You know what I mean? You get racial stuff, but like literally, she genuinely was like, "What happened to you?" And I remember being angry, but feeling sad for her. And I'm like, "Nothing happened to me. You lost your skin tone, you know?" And I walked away. But like I always faced racism from a young age. Some of the stuff my parents would tell me. At the age of 4 or 5, when I was starting school, I used to have to walk about 4 or 5 blocks on my own. A 4-year-old on a busy street in Montreal, because a bus driver would not stop at the next stop, which he was already passing anyway. So it's funny enough, my father just told me the story last week where my babysitter at the time, who was white, so one time they stopped me there. The babysitter was on the middle of the street, stopped the bus driver, was like, "Is there a reason why you're not dropping my son or my boy in front of my house when you cross it anyway?" They're like, no. It's so I always face that type of racism between me and my family. There's another scenario in Montreal again. My older brother got kicked off the bus because they said he started a fight, and my father had to bring me. And I said, I'm like, no, my brother didn't start the fight. This guy started the fight. So it was always there. But that was the first time in Barhaven. Again, more from a level of my understanding, but also, again, it was from innocence. There was no malice or intention like that. But there's so much multiple stories to, me being in my 3rd, 4th year university, and I'm being wrongfully arrested now because I'm black. I'm being wrongfully arrested in Gatineau by cops, and we could probably talk about that story much later on. To only find out now, this is about 6-7 years after the fact, that the suspect they were looking for was white. I'm not white by any means, right? So find out like 6-7 years later that I was wrongfully arrested or detained, put in a police cruiser, and I'm not the person you're looking for, right? So yeah, there's so many of these levels, and I'm a huge believer that everything you go through in life, about 80-90% of what you're going through is not even for you. It's for you to better relate to someone else, to better be more sympathetic, and to encourage and uplift. So yeah, a lot of stuff I've been through, I know it wasn't for me, but hey, to uplift someone.
From previous guests that we had, a lot of them tend to mention their early struggle growing up, and obviously it was a challenge. But out of that, they basically learned very valuable life skills that helped them to become who they are today. So if you can describe or list some of the skills that you learned back then through your struggles that are really valuable till this day.
It's so funny and it's so weird. I don't tend to fully remember my past. And it's the weirdest thing for me that I don't remember some of the things.
Because it's too much?
I don't know. Like it's really weird. I saw a psychologist one time, and it's okay for black people to see psychologists, and it was just for no reason. I just told myself, I'm like, let me see the psychologist. Maybe there's some. I don't remember some of my past. Like there's certain. It's almost like I have to truly remember, or sometimes people will tell me stories, but like I don't vividly remember past. Sometimes I hear people saying their past. I don't fully remember like that. I just know sometimes it's that feeling of feeling alone, that feeling that. Okay, so I'll something come to pass. Like my family were great and everything like that. They were always amazing. But I remember, like, if you go to some of my aunts and all that, they always say I was the trouble child. I was always the wicked one. I was always the one trying to through that. So I can remember some of those elements. Whereas like I was always the sneaky one. So for the longest time, I thought I was a black child of the family. And then now in my later years, they're like, no, you were always a favorite, or you are the favorite. I'm like, it's kind of weird. So things to overcome. Definitely one thing I could say was, especially growing up in an African household, was growing up in the image or the destiny that they had in mind for you. To be more specific for me, again, my parents being amazing and incredible people, my destination was I'm going to be a doctor. That's it. So around the age of 19, one of my good friends had to have surgery, and in him having his surgery, that was my first time really in a hospital. And I'm like, how am I want to be a doctor if I've never wanted to be in the hospital? I don't like hospital shows. I don't like blood. Wow. I actually realized it's not that I don't like blood, but I realized in terms of vaccines, for a long time, like, I don't like vaccines, but I realized I don't like the suction feeling of vaccines, but I had to overcome that. You know what? Yes, you are part of my life. Yes, you are very incredible and instrumental people to me. But there's a life that God has carved out for me that I must attain, and I have to find for myself. So it's fighting the feeling of feeling alone, finding your identity. Even though I'm part, my parents and whoever, they're part of my identity, but I have to find my own thing that works for me, finding my flow that works for me. Yeah.
Wow. I think it's important to highlight before we jump further, something that you mentioned in terms of like not remembering the memories from the past, is that most of us don't remember too much of our past. When we look at the past, it's basically like a highlight of things that we enjoyed. Mm-hmm. Right? We're more likely to remember the negative things of the past because those are the things that protect us. Mm-hmm. Right? But in terms of like remembering everything that happened in the past, it's not likely.
Okay. So nothing wrong with me.
Yeah. You're good. Yeah. So I would like to go into like the school-wise. So you mentioned that you did. You were 4th year university.
Yeah.
4th year. So what was the programs that you had in mind in high school? Because it's because I think that a lot of people struggle with that, like choosing programs and then they decide that no, that's not what I want to do, and then they go on and just keep doing. They go into the same how you say
like path.
the same path. You know what I mean? Because it's just like they don't really know who they are, and then they choose something that they don't like.
I'm gonna try and remember this, but I think when it comes to passions, I know people, we're big on saying follow your passion, follow your passion. Definitely follow your passion. Wherever passion is permission. So you have permission to do the thing. But find out what you're good at. Find out what you hate. As far as some people even say that, find out what bothers you. Like, what have I been on the earth to solve? And I'm not so quick to dish that out anymore, because even that could be like, I don't know why I'm here, I haven't figured it out, I listened to one man, and he said, Craig Rochelle to be very specific, and he said, audit your life in terms of your energies, how you spend your energies. -2 means you do a thing and you hate it, like you dislike it, you don't like spending the time, you don't like that. That's -2. -1, like you hate it, but it's tolerable. +1, you like it, you can do all the time, it's whatever. And then +2, you love it and you can lose time and lose whatever. You want to go more towards that path. In high school, one of my buddies, his name's Thomas, he taught me graphic design. He had a website that he made, and I'm like, yo, that's dope. So he showed me Photoshop, and I got into Photoshop. So I was kind of leaning more into the computers in terms of, visual basics, early language, and, media and manipulation of image like Photoshop. Again, I still had the route of doctor because I was killing it in biology. So basically what happened is from grade 12, I went to university. But the thing of how I got to university, I never did grade 12 physics. So I had to do grade 12 physics. And I think grade 12 chemistry in, summer school. Summer school gave me cheat sheets. So I went into university with in biology with an 85, but in truth, I didn't even hand in a 10% assignment. I'm like, I don't need to. I'm good. So more or less, I should be the 90 whatever in biology. So I'm in university now, University of Ottawa, and I'm in biochemistry. First year, kind of coasted through. Second year, I get slaughtered. When I mean I get slaughtered. Now I'll say briefly a story. Again, biology was my strongest course. I remember taking the test with some buddies, and because biology is my strongest course, I'm like, oh, let me not focus on biology so much. Let me do physics and chemistry because that's not really my strongest. Let me study. With my buddies, we finished the biology. I'm like, oh, what was your marks like? Person's like, oh, I got 81. And I'm like, you got 81? Oh, that means I must got 70. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, why do you hesitate? I'm like, because I got 7, but it must be out of 100 if he's saying 81. He's like, focus. It was out of 100. I'm like, no, you play, man. You saw the marks. You see this? And I'm the dude down here. I was like, oh. That was my first time I went home. I went home. I'm in the basement living with my parents. I closed the door. I played sad music. Everybody knows what a sad song is. I put a sad song and I cried. And I'm like, dang. I'm like, you could even at least give me 10. Like, come on. So I cried. And that's when I realized, I'm like, you know what? You're going to have to make some decisions. Is this for you? Is this not for you? What ended up happening, to skip some things, is I got kicked out of my program. When I got kicked out of my program, it caused me to fully reevaluate my life. Like, all right, do I really like this biochemistry thing? And where is it heading? You know what I mean?
They kick you out when you can't.
When you don't do well. Yeah. So I was like, is this really what I want to do? And then having a good talk with...
so when they kick you out, they give you... you can't go back for a certain time, right?
Yeah, so when they kick you out, you become a special student. You cannot take a program in that faculty.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in the science faculty. I actually tried to get into health science faculty, but I think the woman at the counter or whatever, the receptionist I should say, sorry, she didn't hear me right, and she just heard science. Like, you can't take any of those programs. So that forced me into sociology and psychology. So basically, in the short term, I ended in sociology and psychology. But when I finished all that, I was like, yeah, that's not really what I want to do.
Did you even think about it before you went to sociology?
So the reason why I went to sociology, psychology, to say the easiest one is, again, the mindset was I wanted to be a doctor, but I don't really like the sciences in terms of the biochem, the physics, and the chemistry. I like the biology, but it was almost what I saw was biological and more animals and stuff like that. And I'm like, I like the doctor route, which I didn't know that you can actually study anything and then go doctor. I didn't know that. So it was just like biochemistry, doctor. I was like, okay. So basically, I went to sociology, psychology because it was, there's some courses that are like prerequisites that are very similar to health science. So I'm like, all right, let me get into this so I have stuff similar to health science so that I could switch easily. So after all my hard work, I remember having like a 5.9 and health science needs a 6. They told me, your point went too low. We can't let you in. I'm not opening the door. Please. Which they didn't end up doing that. So to say this story again short, I ended up in sociology and psychology. And yeah, so the rest was from there. From there, I'm like, you know what? That was more or less for my parents. What do I want to do? So one of my good boys at the time too showed me a program that Algonquin was showing, which is interactive multimedia. I was like, you know what? It took me 5 years, if not 5.5 years to get my undergrad. Yeah. But I was like, I'm just going to get it. Because like, once I made my mind, I'm like, I'm going to get it. So I was like, man, I wish I really went into graphic design, but that's a 3-year program. Like, I'm tired. You know what I mean? So my boy he showed me that program. I took that program and I loved it. And again, now some of the youth things coming up. I remember when I was young, I was always doing graphics for my parents. Like, okay, graphics for this auntie, graphics for that auntie. But I never knew the worth in it, right? So that's me studying all that. And I'm like, you know what? I actually want to pursue this.
So you think a lot of those decisions that you made earlier was because, like you said, your parents, you're trying to satisfy your parents. Because I felt the same way, right? Because in my head, I remember after finished high school, I'm looking at my peers. Some of my peers are going to play basketball here. I went to St. Pat's, of course. There's a lot of talent there. So a lot of the guys going like to another city playing basketball, and other guys getting scholarship. And I'm looking at myself. I have no scholarship. No idea what I'm gonna do in college or university. So I'm like, you know what? I don't wanna. I made a good decision at first. I didn't want to just go and take any program. I'm gonna take a year off, save money, because my parents always believe in paying school for yourself. So save money, and then decide over this time. Decide what can I do. So I did that. Long story to make it short. I ended up taking another year and went to a program that I didn't like. You know what I mean? And I was stuck for the longest time. And then ended up I was just in school for basketball. I was playing for the team in Algonquin. Didn't like my program, and I was just completely lost. I didn't know who I am, and I was there for a reason because of the passion that I have for basketball, right? And it was just like a tunnel vision. All I see was basketball, and I was like, when basketball wasn't doing so well, I don't like my program. Now what's out there? I don't know who I am. So I was like, man. So I just decided to, leave school and just go focus on getting to know myself. Yeah.
There's a big saying where it's like, if you look at who we are, human beings, and I love this saying so much, is you're not a human was or a human to be. You're a human being. So that's one of my mindsets I always think of myself. I am present continuous. So that means you are and you are always evolving. So that's the mindset you have to have. Like who I was 5 years ago, that's just an image, Jay-Z says, you want the old me? There's a CD for that, right? So you should never pinpoint yourself to a certain whatever, but have the mindset that, I can grow, I can evolve, I can say tomorrow, I want to be this. And it's okay. It's okay. Because at the end of the day, when you die and you get in that box, it's just you. I had, remember I said I had a dream that I was going to die at 18. The fast forward of that was about a month before my 18th birthday, I got in a car accident. I fell asleep behind the wheel. And the way it was, I fell asleep behind the wheel. I was going under the tunnel of Carling, if you know, in Ottawa. The highway is right there. And the time that happened was 5, 6 o'clock. That's mad traffic. There was only one car that day. I don't know if there was even... There was only one car that day. I hit the tail of his car. And I just remember that was pivotal moments. If you look at your life, you realize you have pivotal moments. And that was a pivotal moment where it's like, will my life just be... I don't know what you'll call those things, but... you know those things that you just get on and like it has a belt and just pulls you?
That's
like
the first thing I'm thinking, it can't be a roller coaster, right?
not a roller coaster, but the roller coaster analogy would work the same, but it's not that. It's almost like an escalator, but it's flat. It's almost like you're not doing anything and it's like whatever comes my way, comes my way. And life can't be that. Life can't just be whatever comes my way, because you have divine will. You like literally you just with a thought and this is when I started studying people and looking at people and even people in my circle and just asking the right questions like, oh, why this or why that, or you know, and again, I don't want to talk down my parents, but it's just look at my parents and I'm like, all right, what do you see? What am I good at? And one gift I say in my bloodline is we have this silver tongue. I call it the silver tongue. We have the ability to get everyone or anyone to listen to us. Like I'm like, I'm getting your attention. Hey, you. And you know, just have a conversation. It's not fake. It's a natural gift that you have. You know, a lot of people talk about generational curses, but there's a lot of generational blessings in you too. So it's like sit down, identify yourself, and it's something that I did with you. What I do to people, and it's something that was done for me, is like, you know, sometimes it's hard for people to see the next 20 years. Yeah. But what does your next month look like? What does your next year look like? All right, what does your next 5 years look like? And you know, you might be saying that's hard, but just you start with a simple question. In the next 5 years, I will be this old. What will that life entail? And then you start harvesting and then channeling your energies.
All right, so going back to the story that you said, obviously you were disappointed by the marks that you got for the class. And going back to a previous point that was mentioned in one of the episodes that we had, it was about self-love and self-acceptance. I did mention about there is a foundational thing that we all have in which we place our value, right? And looking at a healthy foundational base is where you value yourself, you value you for your uniqueness. And obviously at the point when you were going to your schooling, your value of your marks, your value of your perception, right, of your intelligence was basically way really close to that. So when you didn't get the marks that you had, your value of yourself went completely down because that's what you value, right? But you said that after that you reevaluated yourself. So what replaced intelligence when you reevaluated yourself at that point?
So again, I grew up in a Ghana household. We don't expect high marks, we demand it. Like 80 above, 90 above, right? That's a really good question. What did I replace it with? Definitely spiritual. Those spiritual elements I woke up to, where it's like my life is not all this, and I had other things going on for myself too. I was cutting hair, so my parents opened the shop, so I was cutting hair, so I had money coming in. What did I replace with? I've always known, or at least now, that I rank pretty high in emotional intelligence. So, because grades are grades, you know what I mean? Like, it ends one day. So, it's one thing I do. I think I've had 3 or 4 periods in my life where when I feel really, really stuck, I'll just do a simple prayer. I'm like, Lord, I can't see out of this tunnel. You know outside this tunnel. Even if you give me just a brief glimpse, give me the strength to get me out of this tunnel. That's it. So that's, yeah.
Right, I just wanted to highlight the fact that when it comes to intelligence, it's not a very good thing to look at the marks that you receive in school as a mark of your intelligence, a mark of your self-worth, because intelligence doesn't necessarily, in terms of schooling, doesn't necessarily completely evaluate you in terms of your usefulness, in terms of your value, because intelligence comes from many different sources, not just the way that the school system determines. So it's very important to consider that.
And plus, I knew some people in my class were cheating. So I'm like, so I'm like, yeah, man. Like,
no excuses. No excuses.
You know, 7's a good number. You know, ultimately, you know what I mean. 7's number of perfection. I'm like, yo, God's speaking to me. So you know, yeah, right. Absolutely. I was just saying, like, intelligence is not just academic. You got street smart. You got music, language. You got spatial. There's so many levels. Right. And one thing that God did with me is, especially in university, I literally took a class, if not 2 or 3, in every different department. So like I'm more or less well-rounded in that. So yeah. So it's stuff. It's the narrative. Like, how do you talk to yourself? It wasn't like, oh, I'm dead. That's all. You know, I cried it out. Cool. That was a dope song. Let's go. You know, next one. But when one door shuts, find another. There's always another. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to move off from the school thing. But before, so you said the last thing that you did was media, right? The last learning.
Yeah, the last schooling. Yeah, it was media. Yeah.
So what was after that? So like I wanna like go into like what you're doing now. Like
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so after media, again, it was a bit of my parents' stuff there. Cause my parents are like, okay, if you're not gonna be a doctor, that's okay. You gotta, you know, do a 9-to-5 and do government. So I ended.
You had to convince your parents because I'm
living under their roof. I had to, yeah. I'm living under a roof,
yeah.
So you gotta give homage and respect to the parents. So after the Algonquin, I went to work with a company, a nonprofit, in media as a graphic designer.
Yeah. And
it was to prove them, but also prove myself that, you know, I can actually live this life, right? So I was doing.
You had passion for it.
And I had passion, but I knew I lacked structure. Right. So that's something that people don't always talk about, like. Passion without proper alignment, structure,
doesn't work out.
And even people to shape, you're shooting shots, right? So I told myself, let me go and see how the industry is actually doing it. I did that for a year. I loved and hated it because, again, I'm coming from an entrepreneur side. I was cutting hair. I'm working for myself. I say my own hours. I dictate my own stuff. And now someone is more or less the distance of you two.
Yes.
Always watching me. I'm like, what's up? and again, I've always had spike and spunk. I'm that type of person. A quick story. One time he's like watching over my shoulder. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm on lunch break. He goes, when are you coming back on lunch break? And you know, you piss me off, I'm gonna do things. So and I used to always write emails to him when I'm on my lunch break and all that. He goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm lunch. He said, when are you coming back? I'm like, I'm not sure yet. He goes, what do you mean? You know you have 1 hour. I'm like, I know I have an hour, but since we're talking right now, I'm deciding whether or not to add 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So like, that's one thing. I'm not a pushover. I've never per se been that. Like, you know, and it comes with identity, knowing who you are and who you want to be. I'm not a pushover. Like, yeah, if I'm in the wrong, I apologize, but no, not today. Yeah, so yeah.
That's good, man. Yeah, because now I kind of wanted to like a little backstory how we met. You know, we met at a church, All Nations, and just like I always just keep seeing you in church. You know, with large, I'll say 6-7 people. You always brought like there's always new faces that you brought with you. You know, and you just had every time in church, your side it was always lit. It was always hype. You know, I just wanted to like I was wondering like. If I get there before you, I always wanted to be on your side because I know that side is gonna be lit. And you know how church used to be so packed, right? And I just keep asking myself because at that time, my mom used to drag us to go to church. She used to like force us to go to church. But ever since I started seeing you, it was like, okay, I want to go to church just because of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It made me go to church. But I wanted to know what's the reason behind all that.
So when I was brought to that church, my whole family came, and then they left. But God told me to stay.
That's true.
Yeah. So God told me to stay.
That's true.
And in itself, my wife now, but who was my girlfriend, there was one point like we had a bad breakup, and I remember like getting ready to quit and leave, and God told me, nope, you're staying.
That was part of it. Okay.
Yeah, God told me you're staying, and I'm like, what do you mean, Lord? Like I got nobody. What do you mean you want me to stay, right? And then really what the thought came, so God said, if you don't have anyone here, it's because you're not bringing them. So you bring. So that's where God started teaching me stuff like you create your environment. So then I'm like, all right, cool. I started bringing people, and then also
because the church is all the way in the east.
Yeah, church all the way east.
All the way in the west.
Yeah, all the way in the west. It was like a
it's a
45 minute drive.
Yeah.
It was a bit faster because I drove a bit faster at the time, but I remember with me also being hype, it was two things. So when I was in the club, I was always hype. I was never really per se a drinking type, and I never smoked.
Yeah.
But it was like I was always hype. So I'm like, if I can be hype for the wrong team, I gotta do, because it's almost like you've been playing a game for a long time, and you're used to scoring, and it's kind of like you look at the scoreboard, it's like 10-0, and then you're all hype, and then they finally tell you, oh, you've been scoring on yourself. Bro, you gotta go harder, because my time is not the same. I just spent the last 25 years scoring on the wrong side. I gotta score plus more. So that's and my brother's also at the time not being in Christ. I'm like, all right. So there's one thing I used to tell God. I'm like, God, when I dance or whenever I do something, don't just count it for one. Count it for me and my brothers. So you see me going hard for 4. So that's what the mindset. And again, I just bringing people. That's what I'm like, yo, come, like, if heaven's gonna be a party, like the party's more live with people you know.
Yeah.
It's not. I got no problem meeting you there and all that, but I'm like, yo, I gotta bring my people in. So like, and I had hood mentality. So like, I'm like, if I was buck wild in the club, I'm gonna be buck wild in the church, and even more. Like, let's go. You mean like, So that's what the mindset was. Like, encourage yourself, hype yourself, celebrate yourself, go hard for yourself. So if you celebrate me, man, I've already been celebrating myself. So let's go. So the day you stop, it's cool. I'm already celebrating myself. Let's go. So.
Yeah, man, that's good, man. Because from then, I really wanted to get to know you, and then because I had one of my oldest cousin who knew you very well, right? Because you just said you started cutting hair at your mom's shop.
Mom and pops.
Moms and pops' parents. Yeah. So, and then he said, yeah, he cuts my hair. I was like, wow, I wanna go there. I wanna bring me there because I really wanted to get to know you, right? So he brought me there. Ever since then, we just connect. I just wanted to go there because I just love the whole vibe, just like the positive vibes that you guys that you had in there. Like just people, it just felt like even like the first day when I got there, I just felt like I was part of the team. And you don't treat the customers like customers. You treat them like family. Oh, go see my mom. Go see moms. You know what I mean? Like that sounds like go see moms. You know what I mean? Like, and like I just saw how it was just a small little space.
They used to call me the Harry Potter barber.
Yeah, it was just a small little space.
The staircase.
But like I felt like everybody in the East knew about Nanas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like, yo, how can? But I understand why. But people, I don't think a lot of people knew why they keep coming back. Not just the service, because of like how they felt when they were there. Like how do you manage to?
There's so many models I live by, and even this is I definitely want to say I got that and I learned that a lot from my mom. My mom treats people well, like treat people like it's a sister you haven't seen in a while, or a brother you haven't seen in a while. Another gift that I have from my family is high retention. My mom has high retention. She knows people's name. I always thought that was valuable. Like, how can we have a proper conversation if I don't know your name? You know what I mean? Like it's never the mindset I'm trying to sell you something. No. Like okay, like if I can help you, why not? But never force it. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's also through the bad experiences. I remember one time I cut a guy, and I think I leaned into his left a little bit. So he's like, oh, decent cut. It's a good thing I'm not going to a wedding. I like Jordan said, I took that personally. So ever since then, if people ask me what do I specialize, I'm cutting you like you're getting married. And that's what. So I always cut you like, okay, like, and they're like, oh, why you cut so nice? I'm like, I'm cutting like getting married, because wedding cuts are forever. The pictures last forever, so I'm like, no mistakes. I'm kind of like getting married, or you're about to find your wife. You know what? So that's some of the stuff. So it's like always learn to turn a negative into a positive, or like all I have is this time and space. Use it the best I can, because I'm not granted a second chance with you. So if this is all I have with you, let it be the best. If this is the last moment I have on the earth, let it be the best. You know, the Bible scripture that says, and inadvertently that almost came one of my life scriptures, whereas whether you drink or eat, glorify God. So everything about me must show that, you know, there's excellence upon my life. Not because I'm excellent, but the one who gave me life after 18 when I should have died said, you know what? You're worth a second chance. I don't take that for granted.
So going back to your, what should I say, finding your passion, finding exactly what it is that you want to do for a career was a difficult thing. It wasn't something that you immediately knew the moment you went to university.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had to go through trials and errors to figure out exactly what you want to do today, right? So what sort of advice that you can give to people who don't know exactly what they want to do?
Yes.
Like, in terms of like, what should they do in order to begin to experiment? To accelerate their process of finding.
So it's crazy. I always tell people, every time someone asks me for advice, I'm a true believer. You already have somewhat of a direction to go. So you're either looking for someone to co-sign it, or a reason not to do it. You already have somewhat of an idea. Like you just do. Trust me, you have an idea. And you know, people say whatever you want to call it. It's almost like right now. If I said, you know what, let's go to a certain part, and you might have a feeling like you can't go there, bro. So you might not exactly know what to do, but you have some idea. For me, I always had some idea. It was media. It's just I was afraid because, you know, everyone said it's a failure. I saw another quote recently. It said, whenever someone tells you can't do something, it's actually expressing their own limitation, not yours. So you already have someone. Like, the best advice I'd have for someone is keep moving. It's in your moving that you find something. It's in your helping that you find something. Like bless people. Be kind to people. Like just be genuine. You know what I mean? Don't be fake. You don't like someone, don't spend time with them. Simple. You know what I mean? Who's around you also matters. I don't have yes men around me or yes women around me, but I got people who challenge me. I told people my wife low key is a rapper. Like low key. Like I'll do some shit like, why don't you consider this or consider that? And it's not that she's confrontational, but she's showing an angle I'm not seeing. You gotta be around people who are sharp. You gotta be people around you. I remember this saying, I remember it's almost a prayer. The person said, one prayer that you could do is generally pray that anyone who's holding vital information will not withhold from you. There are some people in your life right now who don't want to tell you the truth because you don't handle it well.
So it starts with you.
It starts with you. You're not going to tell me something you're always thinking like, I can't talk to him. You don't handle it well. Some people don't handle criticism well. So like certain things with me, I'm a very principled person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I treat you this way, I'm treating you that way. You know? Of course, like, you know, you should love people and stuff like that. I'm not treating my wife like I treat you. That's not happening. That was actually one of my issues early in marriage because I treat everyone the same, but I had to learn. But you know what I mean?
So
Like you have to figure out what works for you. Because what could be a blessing for me could be a curse for you. So I'm very careful. Back to what I'm saying. You have somewhat of an idea what you want to do. You're just scared to do that. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing. What is actually on your heart? I used to tell people that if two questions. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do? Because that's a limitation for me. I don't have the money. Cool. Second, if you knew you're gonna die tomorrow, would you still be doing what you're doing? If not, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. If you got 24 hours, you know, some people, I spent 5 minutes getting right with people. Why won't you write with people to begin with? You know what I mean? But like, what would you do? I'd be okay dying knowing that I helped someone. I'd be okay with that because I'm an encourager. That's who I am, right? So,
That's great, man. Now I want to go into into your businesses that you have now. For me, when I look at everything that you have now, you said it, you know, and you're doing it. Everything that you say you're going to do, you're doing that right now. And for you to be in this position, and just like I get so motivated because you made me believe that I can do that on my own too. You know what I mean? And when you had the little shop and you used to say, yo, this is how my shop is gonna be. This is, yo, I can't wait. You had all these ideas. And when my first time, just this year, no, last year, my first time last year when I walked into the shop, it was like late last year. I'm just looking around. I didn't tell you, but I was just so proud, and because I was part of the beginning, you know, like
The early stages.
the early stages, you know. And it was like, how come I wasn't here when you guys opened the first day? You know what I mean? Like I was just like, yo, I was part of the early stages, you know. But just seeing like the logo, the chairs, everything, man, like everything upgraded, you know, even the machines, everything. But like, what made you stick to your vision? Oh, what, like, how you were able to stick to the vision even till everything that you had to struggle even to like just to get the place?
That's a really great answer. Great question. What comes to mind is the vision was greater than me, and who was attached to the vision was greater than me. Greater than me in terms of my immediate life, greater than me in terms of my immediate family, greater than me in terms of even the generation to come next. Some of the things that's on my mind is, and I'll go almost like the spirit of fatherhood, if you want to say, where it's like, the word Abba means a life giver. So a father, when you call someone father, is a life giver. Whereas it's whether inherited or not, it's life is greater than me, and I must leave this place better than I found it. So to that saying, especially in the Black community, look at generational wealth. Like, it's lacking in our community, but that is what will set the stage better for the next. So it's almost like if you see giants, what good is it to say there's a giant here, there's a giant here, when you have the weaponry and the skill set to take it down? Yes, it might not go down quick like Goliath, like David, like, you know, when David hit the stone went down, but there's something you can do. You know what I mean? Even going back to the Bible, there's a man named David. He wanted to do great things, but God said, you know, there's a limitation on you. So what I want you to do is set up the blueprint for your son to take over. So my mindset is, even if it's not my biological son, let me do what I can with my time, my strength, my resources to set up the next. As much as I love the barbershop, it's the cash cow. But my calling is more media and people, right? Encouragement. But one thing I noticed was God said, the barbershop is the audience. It's teaching you how to speak to people. It's teaching you how to relate to people. So people see haircuts, but I see image. The first thing is your image. It's the first thing that people see. And it's not even so much like a physical image. How do you maintain yourself? Are you slouch? Do you look a certain way? Do you look approachable? Those are things that even where it helped sharpen my gift of speaking. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you know, I believe it's A. I believe it's B. All right, so how am I able to tell you B, but yet still hear your A? Because your A maybe not be, it might not be wrong. You're seeing something I'm not seeing.
Yeah.
All right, so how can we, you know? And I just saw a place that's better for us. You know, a place that we can have great conversations, where we can talk business, we can talk about where's the next investment. It was Fat Joe who said from 2019, 2020, he's like, how can you say you're my friend when you know where the bag is, but you won't show me the bag? So that's what I want the shop to be, is a place of community where we can come do that. So back to your question, why didn't I drop the ball? Because it was greater than me. And that's what your vision has to be. And I love this saying where I think I made it. If I'm wrong, sorry, but I say success for an individual is no success at all. If I say I'm successful and the people around me are not, that's not success. In two ways, because you'll either come for me for help, or like it just won't work. Like, how can I say I'm successful if I can't repeat it? So we must climb up together. Right? And I'll say shortly, like for the barbershop, the barbershop actually has 4 pillars. The first pillar is image. How you look, how you feel, how you speak to yourself, how you resound to other people. The second one is community. Again, you can't be a lone island. How are you impacting the community? How are you helping others? Uplift, which is sorry, let me go back to community just a little bit. It's highlighting individuals as yourself. You're a prominent person in your community. You're doing things. You're going counter the narrative that you'll be whatever. You're exemplary. Uplift. You gotta go back and help someone. There's so many people I help, and I'm not even gonna get into that. But there's so many people I help, and sometimes they're stunned. They're like, "What do you want?" I don't want anything. I have a simple rule: help someone like I helped you, with no desire of them to pay you back. Simple. The fourth pillar is wealth creation. If we're not creating wealth in our own community, then we're eating ourselves away. What's the point?
Going back to one of the things that you stated in terms of structure, I think you mentioned one of your early media design job. You learned a lot about structure. So speaking of today, in terms of your team, how have you structured your team in order to be well balanced and well organized?
So one of the main things in structuring a team is you cannot have people who are like you. Some people love having people we're fighting because you're not like me. That's the point. They're not supposed to be like you. Back to that conversation. You see A, I see B, I see C. Guess what? We're getting closer to the alphabet.
So it's the same thing. Sorry to cut you off. It's the same thing going to dating your partner.
Yeah. You there's nothing wrong with dating someone who has the same likes, but you have to complement each other. And I saw that even another way. It's almost right now. If you have an idea, we're about to go deep. But I saw someone said especially in the black community, we shouldn't be creating rivalries. Example, I have a barbershop. Yeah. So if your boy has a barbershop, then create a business that that fixes chairs or sells chairs. So then we move together. In terms of structure, I'll answer that. But there's three things you need for a business. You need someone with the idea. You need someone with the resources in terms of the skills, the know-how, and you need someone with the financing. My barbershop, there's 3 owners. All right.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. I'm not the only one. Yeah. There's 3 owners. But in terms of the easiest way I can say for structure is we're all codependent. Things don't wait for my go ahead. You have your protocols. You have what you have to do. You handle it. You handle the money. You handle it. So each of us brings something to the table. The reason why we're not 2 is 2 tend to bump heads. Whereas 3, you just need 2 out of 3 to make a decision and go. But
the dragon with 3 heads. Yeah, you can run even while 2 are down.
Yeah, right. So perfect. Yeah. So, but structure. Never create a system that's dependent on you. It will collapse.
Now looking back, how you mentioned the structure of your business and stuff like that. All your business that you have now is really has to do with the main one that you start, right? Which is part of the community. Can you mention all the businesses that you have? Can you okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Did I say right? Did I say right? All your businesses.
Yeah. If you're not helping, if you're not causing growth, then what's your purpose? You know what I mean? Again, it has to be greater than you, and that's how God blesses the thing, right? If it's not greater than you, and I'll just say this quickly. You did ask the question, Arturo. You asked the question. It's Arturo, right?
No.
That's his name. Yeah. He asked the question you did say, and I feel I just want to add that as an answer. Those who are not doing well. I was at my friend's grandfather's funeral, and he said something that was so pivotal to me. He said that, especially as a black man, but it actually applies to anyone. But he said, no matter how smart you are, no matter what you do, always have a trade. Know how to do something with your hands. Regardless of the economy, you'll be okay if you know how to do something with your hands. And if you even look at groups and how groups stabilized and went into financial prosperity, all that, it's having a skill set. Having a skill set that defines you. But back to your question in terms of my businesses and the community, I'm always giving back. I'm always giving back. I'm always looking for ways to bless, because that's how God blesses you in return. Some people say karma. I don't believe in karma. I believe in seed and harvest. Whatever seed you put in, it will come back. So in terms of businesses, I have prophetic. We have Prophetic Cuts Barbershop, so that's a barbershop.
Yeah.
We have In Focus Production, which is a media-based company specializing more in. There's 5 elements of that.
Yeah.
Weddings, live streams, photography, videography, and branding specifically. We have Reflections, which is a clothing line. What else do we have? Oh, we have a podcast as well. It went on hold for a bit, but it's coming back. It's called Reasons to Continue. I think those are the dominant ones right now.
And it's okay if you can't list them all. You can
Oh, that's-
provide us later.
that's
You can
fine.
put it on the screen.
But the main thing I always say in terms of businesses is I operate in terms of my mind like I have $1 million, what I want to do. So there's definitely some things I want to get into in terms of even real estate and properties and like other businesses. Another business is I'm in crypto. Yeah, I'm in crypto. And I'm in stock as well. Those are businesses as well. I started in those things. Took a bit of a hit last week, but you know, we bounced back.
You started stocks and crypto.
Yeah. You have to. Listen,
how long ago? How long
the dream of wealth is to
Yeah.
live off your interests of your interests. Is to make wealth while you're sleeping. That is the purpose. And the Bible is very
Passive
clear.
income.
Passive income. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. I have 3 children right now. But if they want to have 10 children each, I must have some type of wealth for all their children. Right? So yeah, you have to keep those things in mind.
Right, I wanted to focus on, before we started, a couple days before, Jelson did show me a couple of your videos on Instagram.
Yeah.
It seems like you're well-spoken individual in terms of like the Black Lives Matter movement and the way the government is handling the pandemic here in Canada. So can you speak in terms of how you got started on that and why you're so outspoken on those 2 issues?
So how I got involved with the Black Lives Matter movement, not the organization, this is separation,
Right.
was like I said back to the when you see a giant and you have the ability to take it down, you should take it down, because it's not you who stands to get the bulk of the oppression. It's the ones who follow after you. I saw a video, it circulated last year specifically. It was a Black Lives rally, and there was 3 generations. There was an old man, he was 45, and there was a young man, he was tall, he was 15, and there was a young man in between, about 33. I'm 35 this year. And it shattered my heart, because the old man was so busy desiring that the young man come and engage. The man in the middle looked at the old man and said, "All you are is full of anger. Don't drag who all we will have." It's like when you eat a fruit, don't eat the seed. He said, "Keep the seed away." He looked at the young man. He said, "Listen, we are here because this is our fight, but it's our fight where you are the one who reaps the reward." He said, "Young man," he said, "How old you are?" I think he said he's 15. Tall guy, he said he's 15. He said, "Go home and learn how to fix this problem in new ways that we don't know." He went back to the old man. How old are you? The old man said, "I'm 45. He said, "And you still this angry?" So I remember that day with the Black Lives Matter march in Ottawa.
Yeah, the big
I remember telling my wife, again, growing up, you know, the plague in the mind that I would die at 18. Sometimes it still comes. And my wife is like, what if it gets violent and all that? And I just assured my wife, I'm like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. I just told myself, I'm okay with dying for what I believe in. Not an unnecessary death. My mind was, I'm going to go to this march and I'm going to be that young man in the middle. I'm going to make sure that the young people don't have to be involved and let us fight. That was my mindset. And in terms of fight, it's, you know, standing our grounds and all that. And I remember just holding my wife, and I even practiced distance. I just told my wife, I was like, if something happens today, just get home, go to our children, I'll be right behind you. So it's kind of like living your life, again, not from a foolish standpoint, but like everything I do is to help us gain grounds to better the future. So I hit up one of the people I know, Gwen, and I just hit her up to bless her. It really was that. I was like, okay, I knew you're involved in this, and I just feel I just need to encourage you. So I just spoke words of encouragement, and she just told me, brother, I need you to come. So one thing, especially I was doing before, I used to just bless people on their birthdays.
Yeah.
She sent me a blessing that I sent her, I think 10 years ago. Every word that I've said has come to pass. And I was like, that's crazy.
I could say the same thing.
So
no, not serious. I could say the same thing.
So she told me to come and speak. I was like, halftime sometimes when I'm like, how did I get here? So I went there, and even I still didn't think I was speaking because they had a post about the speakers. My name wasn't there. She called me. She goes, "Where are you? You're speaking in like 10 minutes." And I'm like, I look at my phone. I just charged my phone. For whatever reason, my phone is now at 2%. And I'm like, what the heck? So I grabbed my wife's phone. I started writing whatever. God just told me, this is what you're going to say. So I started saying stuff. And it honestly, it's God orchestrated in the fullest. And I remember even how they introduced me. They're like, Emmanuel. And then God just reminded me, he's like, you know, the word Emmanuel, you know, commonly most people say it's you know, what most God with us. But Emmanuel actually means man hidden in God. So when you see me, it's not me. And this is why you got to be very intentional on how you name your children, because the spirit of your the spirit of the name will always revolve around the child. So I always know God is with me, and I'm hidden in God. So and a lot of what I do is not about me. Like you know, I know you're asking the personal questions so that people can. I understand that, but like I said, 90% of what I go through is for people. So I went there, I said my message, and I left. People were like, "Who are you?" It's about the message. This oppression needs to stop. This racial stuff needs to stop. But we also have a part to do in it. You know, we have to pick ourselves up. We have to push ourselves forward. Not to say we're not doing these things, but some of it is also wealth creation. And this is where we're talking to the governments. Like, y'all saying, let us get our act together. When we started our business, we went through, it's called OCLF in Ottawa. It's a fund to get $15,000. You do a process, it's supposed to take 2-3 months. You get the money, you pay back in 2 years. They want to see a business plan 2 years. We did that. We're in a room of about 9-12 people. Another 3 people on the phone asking us all questions. I've answered your questions. And they're saying, oh, you're tentatively approved. So you know you don't like the position we're in. I came with your formula. We're good to go. And you tell me no. Today is the day that we are. This year we're celebrating 3 years. Some people told me no. And even the person who was involved in helping us, he's from Montreal. And I'm calling him, and I call him my brother, and he goes, brother. And I call him to tell him, I'm going all over that story, but I called him to say, brother, I'm not accepting your money, because God literally told me I have someone giving you money. And so I called him, like, I'm not taking your money. He goes, good, I was going to tell you not to take the money, because the way they're not trying to help you. So someone is who I am. I'm gifted in speech, and there's only so long I can say stand idle. And I'm like, this is not making sense. And again, I'm a principled man. If you're saying A, let A. If A is not working, tell us. But don't say A and then you're doing Z. And Z's benefiting you, not helping us. This don't make sense. So the Black Lives, that's what it was. I'm like, what's going on doesn't make sense. Put money back into the communities. Let's hold the police accountable. Not just the police, but let's hold the elders accountable. When I was in grade 4 in the Ritchie area, and I was they used to hold me for after school programs, and they were telling me it was curricular programs. It dawned on me later on, she was teaching me to be a janitor. I was the only black child cleaning. She was teaching me how to clean. I'm really good at cleaning now, but like, why? Now to the Ontario stuff, that thing is just getting me vexed on another level in terms of the pandemic and the lockdowns. CTV interviewed me, and they're like, what could the government have done different? There's so many levels. Definitely there's things that, you know, in retrospect, but it's like, you're expecting me, a businessman, to close my door. And when I'm applying for the grant or whatever to get the money, because my rent didn't stop. So you should either stop my rent.
Yeah.
Put the money in my hand before I close the door. I applied for, in terms of the Ontario side, I applied, say the month first, rent is due on the 1st. They hit me up with an email on the 5th, and they're saying, we got your submission, just let you know it's being processed, but rent was on the 1st. So now the 23rd occurs of that same month. Your process is going through, but we did a random audit and we want to know who you are. Prophetic Cuts Barbershop. What do you mean you want to know who you are? It's in the name. No problem. Typed up what you need to, sent it. The second month on the 7th. Now 2 months has passed. Full rent has to be paid. They're saying, oh, we've received your information. Cool. Now the 13th of the second month. You're under revision to make sure what you sent us is true.
Yeah, they keep delaying it.
Now on the I think the 17th or whatever of the second month, they say, okay, everything went through. We'll send your money 5 to 10 business days. The money came in on the 24th. But bills are already accumulated.
Yes.
And I have a team. My mindset again is everyone eats. So I'm asking my guys, are you eating? Okay, what can we send? Whatever, we got the kit, loans, whatever, going to our own money, whatever. But you told me shut the doors. Meanwhile, the data is saying that the pandemic transition of COVID-19 is less than 1% in small businesses. So why'd you close us? Amazon's having 500. And before we found out that COVID did not spread on services, you have 500 contaminated people in a warehouse who potentially, if we didn't know better, could spread out COVID. But they're still allowed to operate. You allow golf courses to stay open.
That's right. I heard about that.
You send money out to pay whoever in Toronto and those areas. They took down basketball backboards with rims. But I thought people are struggling right now. Why are you paying people money? Yeah, they took down the rims and the back. In Ottawa, it costs close to $200,000 a day to set up the police at the borders of Gatineau and Ottawa. They did it for about 7 days. So you cost the city 1 whatever million just to check people to see, okay, where are you going? Which is against the Charter of Rights. Every lockdown, 10% of business closed for good. You tell me you couldn't have spread the money around to help your own people? One of the gyms that had here that are open, we're now finding out research that, you know, if you stay active, it helps you against COVID. So why did you close the gyms?
Well, to be devil's advocate, not to say that anything that you said wasn't factual or wasn't right, but also to understand that a lot of countries are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And obviously this is the first, so no one really knew the right process, the right approach to go about it.
Absolutely.
So obviously Canada's government did make major mistakes in terms of like closing down small businesses. So it's also important to just take into consideration that they didn't really know the right approach. And so by doing
Absolutely. And I'm in full agreeing with you. And that's why I said in retrospect, there's things and we could have changed.
Yeah.
But everything you say applies to the first lockdown, not the second.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Amazon, Bell, Rogers, all these guys, their numbers went completely up. So now even people are asking me, so what should have been done? You always had two options. Keep everything open or shut everything down. Because Doug Ford, you're complaining that young people are the ones spreading, but young people had to go to work. So close the McDonald's. This is about health, right?
Yeah.
Was McDonald's considered an essential business?
Because it's food.
Oh, that's right.
It don't matter what type of food it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember, there's data linking that 80% of those who got COVID is obesity. Obesity comes from certain types of food. Right? So
Yeah, I have a question. I kind of wanted to just take it's a little bit off topic. I think I was gonna ask you off camera, but I don't mind asking you. How you became a great, not become, because you always were a good speaker, right? In terms like, did you ever have to like work on like your public speaking?
everything's something you have to work on. Even if it's a gift, if not maintained or fed properly, it's not advantageous to you.
Yeah.
Little things. So I was doing the announcements at my church at the time. So visually, I was always recording myself. So in terms of recording myself, I saw, okay, I don't like how I speak here. I don't like how I speak there. In terms of visually, especially on cameras, you have to stretch who you are. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like if I'm talking to you regular, it's like this. But if I'm speaking in front from audience, you got not animate, but you have to
voice, you're good at
you have to
changing.
accentuate who you are more, and also the barbershop.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, and just as it is right now, you don't have to agree with everything I'm saying, and that's anyone.
Yeah.
But how can I listen to you and say my point? If you don't like my point, that's okay. You want to look it up, look it up. But in the barbershop, especially in the urban barbershop, sometimes it's who's the loudest.
That's it.
You know what I mean? You got
That's
it's funny enough. Yesterday or the other day, we were talking in the shop, and a woman's like, I was talking, and a woman was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fact check everything you're saying." I'm like, "Go ahead, fact check." And she was, "Okay, you were right about this. This was actually right, but only in this area." I'm like, "Cool," and I'm like, "But you know, right now in Toronto, that you can they can vaccinate children between 12 to 18 without consent." And she was, "Really?" So we looked it up. It's happening in Toronto. It's happening in Peel. I believe it's also happening in York. Anyways, to cut the story short, I was offering her child candy, and she goes, "No." I'm like, "We got all types of flavors." And she goes, "No." I'm like, "It's okay. I also believe that you need consent to give candy." And you gotta know how to clap back.
Yeah.
And she goes, "You chose violence." I'm like, every day I choose violence. You know what I mean? Like, life is fun. Like, so, but you gotta know how to talk, but be respectful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially in our culture, I'm not saying to do that, but it's almost like the loudest one wins, but it's not about being loud. And one thing I learned, it's fun when you pull people in a conversation. So it's kind of like, I'm talking to you, and I'll be like, "Turo, join me." And all right, and be like, "Yo."
You do that, yeah. You do that.
Yeah, so.
And it's good that you brought it there, because the reason people love coming to the shop is because everybody has a voice. They feel like they have a voice, and you allow them to have a voice. Because I remember you dealing with somebody who didn't have the same beliefs that you do, and you didn't disagree with him because you knew where he was coming from, right? You didn't have to argue with him because his beliefs is different than yours, and like how you dealt with him in that situation was good to understand. Like, oh, so I don't have to disagree with somebody that doesn't have the same beliefs as me. You know what I mean? And it was just great, like seeing that in the shop, because coming to the shop knowing that it don't matter who I am. It doesn't really matter who I am. They're still gonna accept me for who I am. You know?
It's huge because remember, you've been made in the image of God, right? So at the bottom line, I have to give you dignity. Yeah. There's value in your life. And that's one thing where it's like, if you don't see even that basic value, I should help show you. You know what I mean? So, and back to what you said, I just want to reinterpret the part, or add value again, or whatever to the part, is I'm not against you. It's the point you're saying. So I'm never attacking a person. Is maybe the decision, and even that, I'm never just attacking for the sake of attacking. It's bringing a solution. I'm not going to critique something I don't know or something I don't have somewhat of an understanding. If I need to be educated, educate me. Let's go. Let's get better, but let's do it together.
Yeah, I think most points, when we learn best and we learn more whenever our points are argued against, because we come to know that where we're wrong and where we're right. So it's very important to talk to people who have different value as you, so you can learn more in terms of why, and maybe why you might be in the wrong, and maybe why you might be in the right. So,
or whatever new option is.
Yeah,
life is exciting that way.
And it goes back to remember when we used to do bandwagon statements?
Yeah. People want to bring that back. The funny thing is, I don't watch the NBA.
Yeah.
You
watch NBA?
Nah. The only thing I watch is playoffs, but even that,
So we used to do this thing, bandwagon statements, and like who's better, which better team and stuff like that. It was just so funny. People would go back and forth, you know what I mean?
And the true word of the bandwagon statement is kind of like, some people, they don't have their own opinions, they're just echoing. So we like, who are you going for? Like, oh, going for this. Why? Bandwagon statement, you know what I mean? So, but yeah. Because I know how to argue for the sake of arguing's sake. So sometimes even just talking to people, I just want to see your thinking process. That's what it is. It's, because the more you talk, the more you reveal about yourself. So, yeah.
And then now going back to mentorship, because people feel so comfortable coming to you and asking for myself, you know what I mean? And do you ever feel that? Can you kind of create a business into mentoring people? Is it something that you're always gonna be like, I don't mind doing it for free?
Who said I do it for free? No. No. Everything comes down to value, if I can say. And not to say that if I charge, you're not valuable. It's nothing like that. But everything comes down to value. Definitely, there's levels I do consulting and stuff like that. But everything's on the relationship. Everything's on the relationship. So I always say that if my children want gold diapers, they're getting gold diapers. You know what I mean? So if I need to charge you, I'll charge you. But everything is exchange in exchange. So it's even me being here is an exchange of my life. So I'm here because I find value in this. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with charging because it's your value. You gotta know where you stand and know what you want to do and all that stuff. I definitely love helping people. And on that side note, there is a way how to approach a mentor. You know what I mean? It's never the best to go to someone saying, I want you to mentor me. Especially if you're not showing some level of genuineness or if I spend an hour with you and I just told you simply okay, you know what? Next week this time, call John. And then 2 weeks has passed. I'm like, did you call John? I wanted to, but I didn't. And I'm like, bro, why are you wasting my time, right? So I love mentoring and stuff like that, but I always find that it's better when it's more natural. But again, the point of a mentor is not so much to get you to do what you want to do, but the mentor shifts your thinking, right? The mentor tells you, okay, you saw A, B, how come you're not considering, Alpha Z? That's what a mentor does to you and stuff like that.
Gives you
new perspective and pushes you. The mentor pushes you because you I love this quote that someone said the biggest untapped potential is human potential. All someone needs is the mind shift and time. Not even money, not even people. They can acquire these things, but it's mind shift and time. If you shift your mind that you're this and you truly believe in your core, then you can become that human being, right? So get the right mentor. And again, mentor, there's so much purpose of a mentor, but one of them is to evade mistakes. You're going your own path, but okay, you know what? You want to be this, and someone's doing that. All right, consider this, and that. The other day I was mentoring someone. I mentored a couple. Something that should have took 2 hours took 5. And that's why who you marry matters, because my wife knew I was there.
Yeah.
But I looked at the person, specifically the girlfriend, and I just looked at the girlfriend of the guy, and I just looked at her and I said, consider this, and this, but your character, check your heart. You love helping people. But the thing about you is you help people to your detriment. So some people are like that. They help so much. They help people so much they don't want to kill themselves in the process. That's not a good way to help people. So the mentor sees those things and checks and balances and all that. So
isn't that another way they sort of avoiding to look at their own flaws, and so they try to distract themselves by helping others.
In terms of the mentor.
Yeah, some mentors are normally just hiding away from their flaws.
I'd say definitely there's a level of that. I mean, there could, but a good mentor will be vulnerable with you. Why wouldn't you be vulnerable? I don't see the reason why not to be vulnerable. I've sat down with you. I've told you where I am. You know what I mean? And I'm not the best. I'm not better than anyone, but a true mentor will reveal himself to you. You know what I mean? It's like an example. If you had two paths, left or right, and I've done right, and I've had successes, I will also tell you, you know what? There's probably a trap there waiting for me, or example, this, and I'll be vulnerable for you. Okay, here lies both options. Whatever you pick, I'm with you. Consider this. A has this. B has this and this. I also, I might have gone A, it didn't work out for me. B, but, yeah.
Yeah, so going back to something that you mentioned earlier, you said that you kind of when you name your children, so you kind of have to name with intention, because that comes with a spirit. Can you share the names of your 3 children?
So exactly, when you name your children, name them with intention, because the spirit will follow them. But also in my case, and my wife was, if I have nothing and I can leave you with a thing, it's literally an ongoing prayer. Let that prayer keep you. So it's an ongoing prayer. Every time someone says the name, it's invoked. So my first son is Ezrael Samuel Ruel, Rayuel, and last name. So Ezrael means help of God, or the one whom God helps. Samuel is the Lord has heard my prayer and answered it. Reuel means intimacy with God or friend of God. So God will hear my prayer when I cry and answer me because I am a friend of God, and that's why he will help me or continue to help me. So that is his prayer, right? And then I have twins. So the first of the twins is Eliel. Jesus, hold on, give me a second. It's not Jesus. I'm just trying to give it a name. Cut! Baby, where you at?
We're gonna edit up.
Hold up. How? Jude, what's my son's name? Pass my phone. I don't know. I'm not. His name's drawing a blank. Okay, I remember now. So dang, I completely forgot. Woo! I know their birthdays. All right. All right.
I know the birthdays.
My second son, who is the first of twins, his name is Eliel Emmanuel Mika. So Eliel means my God is God. Emmanuel is man in God, and Mika is there's none like my God. So
and then he has a last name after that.
He has a last name after that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then my third born son is Isaias. I'm forgetting the order right now, but Isaias.
This is something that you and your wife.
Yeah. So Isaias.
Yeah.
Raziah, Chazal, and then the last name. So Isaias is the Lord is my salvation. Raziah is the sweet spot. So it's the very presence of God. So the sweet spot of God, or the sweet essence of God. And Trésor as a treasure, right? And the reason my children each have 3 names is I don't have a middle name. Some people think Focus is my middle name, but it's not. So I don't have a middle name. So it was basically like to overcompensate for them. So so they each have 3 names. So they've been a blessing to me. They continue to be a blessing. Yeah.
Wow. So
Do you have a quote?
Yes, we're coming to an end.
Do you have a quote?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, you want me to say quote? Sure.
To an end now of the podcast. So we do this segment as we kind of like have a quote towards the end, and we kind of like break it down to thoughts. So the quote is by John Green. Is there's hope even when your brain tells you it isn't. Any thoughts? What's your thoughts on that?
There's hope, even
when your brain tells you it isn't.
There's so many levels I can go on that. I always say, and it might be mixed with a quote there, but like where there's hope, where there is breath, there is life, right? Hope is the essence of man that it makes you think beyond your circumstance. Hope is light at the end of a tunnel, so there is hope even when your brain tells you it's not. Brain looks at the natural, looks at your circumstances, look at what you're going through right now, but your spirit's the real you. So first off, you are a spirit that has a soul that's contained in a body. So that is the real you. So the real you can see beyond the moment, right? The real you is connected to God. So as long as your spirit man is alive, you're alive.
Because I did this thing on this speech on social media. I don't know if you saw it, social media break. And I was kind of saying, speaking about social media, I was saying how like it got to a point that was hurting my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So when something is hurting your spirit, the faith, it's hard to have faith on anything, right? So and you just said that, it makes so much sense because I didn't realize that, because I had to step away for a couple months because I just felt like it was hurting my spirit. I had to step away.
So the real you is a spirit. Like whatever happens to you physically has already happened to you spiritually. It's almost like an echo, but there's a delay. So if I'm dying spiritually, it's not going to take long. You know, you can get the substances and all that. And people say, you know, the reason why people do drugs or hang out around other people is to escape their reality. You have to sit down with yourself, have real conversations with yourself, and be hopeful. Because that alone, if you have the ability to stop and be like, okay, something's up, or, you know, it could be better, or whatever, just that fact of stopping. You know, sometimes, you know, especially in our generation, we're like, oh, because there's no motion, you're not progressing. It's not true. But if you could be hopeful, speak to yourself that, you know what, I did this, but I can. Because at the end of the day, if God wanted you dead, it won't take much to take you out. Like, it really won't take. God don't need your help to take you out. So if God has you still alive today, there's something that you need to do. So even if your brain is saying, yo, it's clocked out, your spirit is saying you're still here. Breathe again.
That's huge. And I can speak on like hope, because there's something that carried my marriage today. Because I can say my wife, she always tells me that I need you to be stronger than me, always. Because when I see weakness on you, it brings me down, because I get my strength from you. You know what I mean? So, because she's always preach about that, tells me that you really be gifted in faith and hope. Because every time we're struggling, we are going through adversity and stuff like that, I'm always like, don't worry, we're gonna be fine. Don't worry, we're gonna figure out. We don't have money, we don't have enough money for this month. Don't worry, we're gonna figure out. And we always find a way to figure it out. And like anytime she sees weakness, and she's like, hey, I can't see you like that, because every time you show me weakness, I get even weaker. I need your strength, because I feed off your strength. You know what I mean? So it's huge when it comes to hope for me and faith, and that helped me become even stronger. Now it's like, it's automatically, I know whenever things are going down, there's no negative that can come in my way. You know, it has to be positive when we're having a conversation. I can't go back and be like, no, we can't do it. No, it's always that we're gonna figure out, we're gonna find a way. Let's forget about that. Let's focus on something else right now. You know what I mean? And we'll come to that again. So it's when it comes to faith and hope, I'm really big on that. What's your thoughts on this?
For me, the first thing that comes are a list of examples. So I think of people who have suicidal thoughts. I think of people who suffer from depression. I think of people who have extreme amount of stress. Right? Those people are basically at a point where they don't see anything else. Right? They don't see any other perspectives, and so they're basically don't have any hope. But at the same time, I look at people who come from a very poor family, a very poor society, in which there's no other way but to keep moving forward. So for them, there's always hope, right? So it's basically just lacking perspective in terms of like, there's always options as long as you continue to move forward. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. So, like my last question I have for you, man, what's the plan for the next 5 years for yourself, for your company, and for your family?
The next 5 years.
Yeah.
Make it out of this pandemic. So I actually, you know, I've done that with you. The next 5 years, I break it down into 6 elements.
Yeah.
So the first being service, because your life is not about you, so it's about your community. There's an element of family. There's an element of finances, which is broken down to a slew of things, between emergency funds, life insurance, a will, type of vehicles you want to drive, type of house you want to drive, spiritual growth. Your walk with God is very important. Even your health, and these are the categories. So your health in terms of your body and your mind. So I break those down. So where I am in the next 5 years. There's definitely the only word that comes to mind, because I do have it written down, is impact. It's impact. I definitely want to impact. There's some things I will be doing this year. I thought I wanted to push it back to the next year because of the pandemic. I'm just really feeling strong in my spirit to do it now. And the reason being is that's some reasons that also people delay purposes and dreams because they're looking for the right time. But the way God told me, he goes, you need to do it now to show people that it's actually possible to do it now. So it's especially in the next 5 years, is community impact. God has blessed me incredibly. My wife and I, my team, and just even people around us, we want to do a lot of community impact. Between cutting hair at lower urban communities to homeless areas, impacting schools, stuff like that. There's definitely some projects we have in mind, and we will be doing it. So, yeah, stay tuned.
That's great, man. Thank you so much, man.
Thank God.
You know what I mean? We learned a lot, and this podcast is helping those and those who still lacking of identity, finding purpose and motivation. Right. This is why we decided to start on this podcast, and I for both of us to learn, right? Because every guest that we have here, we learned a lot, you know, and this is really, we fall in love with the process and we enjoy, you know. Thank you for taking the time to come and share.
Thank you for having
wisdom.
Thank you,
man. Thank you. See you in the next one.
You gonna make it.
Yeah.
Keep your head up. You're a king. You're a queen. You got this. Sleep less, grandma.
Yes, sir.